Hi, hi everyone.
Hi.
I had an issue clicking on our intro there for a second, so we are probably live with like 10 seconds of dead air. So that's my
Every
bad.
time, Brian.
I'll edit that out of the podcast. I know I should never control this, Jason.
I think that's the problem is I always have, and I go to do it, and now you're trying to too. So, Brian,
we should all cycle it so that way, we can.
Well, welcome to episode 54, our theoretical distilling episode, which I know nothing about. So hopefully Jordan's going to be theoretically leading the discussion on today's episode. And you'll also see Drew down in the bottom left corner. If you're watching us, say hi, Drew.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
You're supposed to say hi, Drew.
Hi, Drew. Yeah.
He lose Simon Says. All right.
Yeah. Who also has some knowledge of the subject from a theoretical level. So, yeah. What's everybody drinking tonight?
I guess I'll start off. I've got my Bell's Homebrew beer,
which is
a Philly sour. No other malts added, pretty much just their wort. I did not have time to really formulate a really well thought out beer. So just kind of used the hops I had on hand, which was, I want to say bittered with Northern Brewer. There's a little bit of Azaka, some Holler Tower Blanc, I think, and some other experimental hop. I'd have to go back and check my notes on. I want to say it's like Vovogina or something like that. Some weird name.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's what I'm drinking. That's what I got.
With like a little bit of like bourbon mixed in there, since it's like a distilling episode, or
I could. I could go get some scotch.
Jordan fail.
Yeah, I didn't set that up for myself, but I might have to.
I got the Wild Turkey 101 right here.
101. God, is it going to be that type of Monday?
Oh, yeah.
Drew's kicking it off.
I did. Earlier in the night, I was like, man, this is a distilling episode. I should just go get like a bottle of Popov and fill it with water and just.
Oh, yeah.
You can't cheat like that, though. I mean, we've
yeah, but I also can't sit here and slam shots on a Monday night. Right now, so
that was the Drew Jacobs show, I guess. We'll get one of those rolled in again. He did say he wanted to do another show with us, so we'll have to pencil him in.
Stock up on Malort.
Kim's drinking Lighthearted. I really do like Lighthearted. Sometimes it's hard to justify the price for like low ABV beers like that, but
it is tasty.
Yeah, it's super tasty. In fact, Kim, is that your clone kit? Is that your homebrew Lighthearted kit, or is that an actual Lighthearted? Because I know he had a Lighthearted kit going at one point in time too. So, what about you, Jason? What are you drinking?
I'm going to stick with the Bell's theme. I'm drinking starting off anyway with my Bell's Homebrew comp beer, which is a cherry IPA.
Yeah, it's so clear. Is that really that clear?
Wow. Yeah, it really is. Really is that clear. That's
wow.
The writing on the other side of the glass.
Yeah,
it's super clear. It's got a great red color. I stuck with a Michigan theme here, so Bell's delivers this to us using all Michigan malt and of course Michigan water. And so I hopped with Michigan copper hops that I got from Great Lake hops, and then pitched on secondary, put in I think 8 pounds of Michigan tart cherries. So it gave it a really super great red color. It's got a really strong cherry flavor. Still an IPA. Then since Amy was nice enough to try it earlier and say it was gross.
No. What type of hops did you use?
Oh,
you said that.
Michigan copper.
Yeah.
Yep. Michigan copper hops. I did, boil and aroma and dry hop, just a pretty traditional hop schedule, but it just using the copper hops just to try to focus on those hops. They have cherry and spice flavors already, so I thought they'd go well with the cherries. And yeah, I mean it's okay. Which means it sucks. As every beer I drink that I like that I make, if I like it, it's usually shit. So
I guess while we're on the subject of your two Bell's beers, the Homebrew Expo at Bell's is coming up this weekend.
This Sunday. Yes. Okay. The 19th? Is that it? I'd have to.
The 19th.
Calendar.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
So if you're in the Kalamazoo area on Sunday, or if you're not and want to drive in, Bell's is doing a Homebrew Expo starting at, is it 11 or noon?
I didn't see a time online.
Google it.
Up last night.
Yeah. We'll be there as a club, Keepers of Craft. I think there'll be at least one or two other clubs there. There will be some manufacturers there, probably some yeast people, I think, or at least there have been in the past. I don't have an entire rundown of who's going to be there Sunday, but
plus us.
Should be a good time. Yep. So plus us, and there's going to be a raffle, so you can win, maybe like bags of malt, or occasional they'll like raffle off like a Blickman burner or something like that. There's some pretty good prizes just for showing up and hanging out and drinking. So yeah, and they're going to announce, of course, the most important part, the winner of the Bell's Homebrew competition. So if you end up drinking a cherry IPA next year, or a nice, delicious kettle sour, not really kettle sour, you'll know who made them. Yeah, it'll be good. I'm drinking a red IPA, not Bell's Homebrew competition beer, just a red IPA with Simcoe and Centennial hops, but solid. Right, and a bag full of Ferndale beer and Old Nation Oktoberfest ready to go. So yeah, there you go. I'll go get a bottle of whiskey or something to dose my beers with. But yeah, what are you drinking, Drew?
Oh, well, I kind of showed everybody.
Wild turkey.
Yeah.
Is that all you brought?
That's all I got right here. But yeah, I'm going to need to change it up or cut it with Coke or something.
See, this is when we need to have a shop where we could put shots for Drew up on there and people can pay $1.
I got a lot of ice in there. I'm
that.
just sipping that right here.
Oh, okay. See, there's water in there. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio.
That's just from the ice, though. It's just melted. I didn't add any water other than ice.
All right. I remember Wild Turkey back in the day. It was good.
According to all the subreddits of people who bourbon enthusiasts and whatnot, they swear by this in terms of like for the price, and I can't disagree. So
really? Okay, well, I'll have to pick some up next time I go shopping for bourbon.
Get the 101 though. It's got to be the 101. It's a little more potent, but
right.
It's got
a nice flavor profile.
I think last time I bought Wild Turkey 101, probably the reason why I never bought it again is that I slammed about a glass of what you have there just full.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want to do that.
Don't remember what happened to the rest of the night.
I made a post before we started the night, just a reminder post for the show, asking everybody to, get their pints of bourbon together and hop on and join us. So
yeah.
We'll see if we get held responsible for anything tonight, I guess. So where are we starting as far as the discussion goes? What is a distilled spirit? I guess how do you get to that point? Without going into the nitty gritty, what's the the 3-step process?
No, since what's that, Brian?
Is it 3-step? I don't know. I just made up a number.
Just see, I'm sitting here trying to be like, okay, is it 3 steps? Well, I mean, you brew much like we do. From what I gather, a lot of whiskeys, a lot of bourbons are made with corn rather than a full malt bill. Unless of course you're doing like a single malt. which is where the term comes from. You ferment something up to, from what I was reading online, to about gravity of around 1080. So if that ferments down, that should give you something that if that goes down, if that goes completely dry, what's that going to put you at? Like what,
A lot.
12%? Yeah, 12% or so.
Should be.
Yeah, and then you take what you've fermented out, and essentially, that would be your beer at that point in time. But then you take that and you put it into a still. You heat it up, and alcohol naturally drives off at specific temperatures before water does, and you collect those alcohol vapors in the condenser. And then let that alcohol drain off. So you're essentially just extracting the process of distilling is extracting the alcohols from your brewed beverage.
And then you drink it the last step.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too far into this, I think it's important, as Drew mentioned before the show, we need to point out this is a theoretical discussion at this point. Distilling at the homebrew or private level is currently illegal in Michigan, even though that's freaking stupid.
I think it's the entire United States.
Yeah. It's
so.
I actually think there's some places where it's legal now.
Certain states let you do it, but it's still federally illegal. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some
federal
states,
supersedes the state law.
Yep.
It's going to be technical. I mean,
right. But there's many homebrew systems out there, SS Brewtech and Grainfather and or the Brewfather, whatever. There are many systems that sell attachments that will do this, and I think a lot of them are probably sold in the area for the purpose of making stuff like hand sanitizer or essential oils or some other BS. So anything that might be said on the show today, as far as Michigan's concerned, is like I said, theoretical. None of us have distilling licenses yet.
It's all about the process, the craft of the process. It is like there are like Drew said, there are some places, some states out there or regions that allow you to do it. But as we said, it is federally illegal. So this was just a topic. I'll take responsibility for it that I kind of bore out of my head. Because as most of us homebrewers who submitted to the National Homebrew Competition last year know, all that beer, mead, ciders all got distilled down and turned into hand sanitizer. So at that point, I kind of started thinking off, and I had never really looked into distilling much prior to then, but I figured since my hard work was then going into make clean hands. I figured I'd start looking into it and reading into it a bit. And it's just, it's kind of been a topic of research for me over the past, year or so, just lightly reading here or there about, what would you expect if you were to theoretically, distill down one of your beers. So that's where this came up. I figured, we were kind of struggling around to come up with the topic. So here we are talking about, extracting that wonderful little courage juice out of your homebrewed beers.
Yeah. I mean, I would point out that in New Zealand, it is legal to home distill for personal consumption. So a lot of the good resources and stuff I've seen out there come from our Kiwi friends. And they have a lot of a background from that perspective because it is legal.
Interesting. I did not know that.
And a quick shout out to you totally should write your member of Congress and help to get the law changed, because I think it's completely stupid. I don't think there's any reason it can't be sort of how homebrewing is, where there's a certain amount maybe you can produce, but you can't sell, it's personal consumption, yada, yada, yada.
Is there a lot more danger, though, to distilling than
I think
the homebrewing?
So I think it's blown out of proportion a bit, personally. I mean, yes, you need to be careful. You need to be smart. I don't think that's the reason it's not legal.
Right,
I
yeah.
think it has more to do with tax reasons and things, if you want my honest opinion on it. But
Yeah.
I mean, there is probably a little bit of escalated, danger level there, just because you're using a sealed container and applying heat to it. So there's a little bit of, vapor pressure within the
Oh,
still.
certainly. Yeah. I didn't mean to say that it doesn't have additional dangers. It does.
But it is minimal. You'd really have to fuck up.
But at the same time, if it's illegal and it's hard to find information on it, you're making the problem worse, because I think people are going to do it anyway. And then, but they're not using the right materials. They're doing things that are unsafe, like, I think, well, kind of reading back to the history on it, people kind of used to just kind of cobble together whatever, right? And, they were using metals with lead in them, like car radiators, stuff like that. I mean, I'm talking back, more like maybe the 20s, 30s kind of prohibition era. But yeah, I mean, lead can make you go blind, and that alcohol is going to strip the lead out, So like, there are some things to be cognizant of, as Jordan mentioned. Like, you're dealing with something that is basically a flammable gas at that point. So, there's a fire danger there. That's why, from what I've seen, a lot of the stills they make these days are all electric, I think, because they're worried about the open flame. And, like the ones they sell in New Zealand and the ones you can get here. But anyway.
But it's like saying that those risks don't. Some of those risks aren't similar with homebrew. I mean, you're still homebrewing this shit. A lot of people do it in their garage or outside, and they're using propane. They're using open flame sources. If they do it in their garage in the winter and they close the door, they're gonna gas themselves out with carbon monoxide. And there's dangers to so many hobbies that we do. So again, as long as there's educational material out there and awareness, it's no more dangerous than anything else that we do, really. But it is silly that it's illegal. So I did some poking, because I'm actively Googling, and I've got some other people sending me messages, and there is technically a law in Michigan that I think the way I'm reading it is it couches that it would be legal if it was federally legal. So Michigan is already primed to allow it. They're just hiding behind the federal law. But there are other states out there that actually do allow it and don't, kind of like what we're doing with weed. Weed is technically federally illegal, but you can buy it all over Michigan. So for some reason, Michigan's hiding behind the federal law on this one, but there's other states that aren't, like, what is it? Florida, Alaska, Rhode Island. For some reason, Rhode Island.
That's a weird one. Florida makes sense. Alaska also makes sense, but
yeah. And the other ones I see are Arizona, Maine, Massachusetts, Missouri, Ohio.
That's a lot more than I thought.
So I think, especially now as home brewing has taken off, home venting, with home winemaking and home mead making and
home weed growing.
Home weed growing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, the new trends that we're seeing with, just the craft industry. Craft distilling is the next big thing. Drew, do you have plans on getting a distilling license for Doster?
Not at this phase. So I'm licensed to make beer and wine right now, basically. But I did look into it pretty seriously for a while there. And I just determined, and one thing I think we'll probably get into it more, but you need so much more scale to make spirits, because, with that distillation process, you're losing, I don't know, maybe like 80% or more, depending on what you're making and what percentage. But, so you need these massive fermenters. Like, I think Jordan and I were talking the other night. I've been to a few places along the Bourbon Trail, and I want to say Jim Beam had fermenters that were like 105,000 gallons a piece.
Wow.
That's
and then they had
massive.
16 of them. So it was
Yeah.
just literally a room where you go up to like, I don't know, like the third or fourth floor, and you're just looking out at the tops of these tanks that are just massive.
How many did you say that they had?
16, I think.
Jesus. Okay.
So in
They're probably
beer
bigger
terms,
now. That was a few
that's
years
about
ago.
that's 3,387 barrels, like 31-gallon barrels. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you're like, it's distilling, right? They're fermenting probably their mash to in the range of 18 to 20%. So you're automatically throwing off, the majority of that
Yep.
volume, right? You're taking it down to such a fraction of finished product that you're getting, which is, I think, why one of the topics for tonight is, as homebrewers, and what I've heard and talked with my friends about before is, man, I've got all this old homebrew, right? I've got gallons and gallons and gallons of old homebrew in the basement. Wouldn't it be cool to be able to distill that down and get something usable out of it? Whether it's IPAs that have gone off or stouts that didn't age well, and so I think that's my question. Is like in your research, Jordan, have you ever found like the feasibility of distilling beer into spirits and actually getting something that's usable or drinkable, or does it impart some of that shit flavor from the beer or what?
Well, I guess we can. The way I look at it, at least, is flavor aside, because I haven't had anybody who's done it or whatever. Haven't tried it. You can just take a look at what type of volume are you going to get out of, say you got a full 5-gallon batch that you want. It's gross. You want to dump it at, say, what, 6% alcohol. So that 6% is theoretically what you're going to distill off as alcohol. Now, granted, you're going to get a little bit of water out of there, so your volume is going to be a little larger than that full 6%. But still, it's going to be a very, very small amount of usable material. And even smaller than that, full, we'll say 6 to 10% of your batch, because that first, like, say, and this was a bit of research I was doing, or something that I didn't know until just like a few weeks ago. Now, I always knew that Drew, I think you called it 4 shots, was like your first like 10% of distillate is basically trash. It's the stuff that's going to make you sick. Don't drink it. Don't do it. Don't think about it. Like, first 10%, just toss it, use it for something else, anything besides ingesting it. And then you have like 3 different, so we're down to like 90% of what your usable distillate would be. So your first 30% would be about what they call heads. So that's stuff that's not like necessarily super flavorful. It doesn't contain any of it's as drinkable, yeah, but it's not as, how would you say, maybe pure, if that, palatable, as you might think. So from what I read, a lot of people will collect that 30% approximately of the, what they call the head of the distill, and they'll toss that aside. And then you get that, the next 30% you get into is what they call the hearts. And that's the good stuff. So that's the stuff that's going to have a good flavor. It's going to be good and mellow. That's stuff that you're going to want to use to, say, put into a barrel or throw oak chips on or flavor or something like that. And then the last 30% is what they call the tails. And from what I read, a lot of people will take those tails and they'll toss them in with the heads, and they'll collect those heads and tail, distill till they have a whole new batch to distill, and they'll toss that back into the still and redistill it. So what you're looking at, really, if you've got a 6% beer, you're really only looking at like maybe 30% of what that usable distillate is going to be. Like your good quality stuff. Now, some distillers will say like, oh, well, no, it's like more that 40%, and they'll only throw out 20% of the tails, what have you. It's all dependent on, taste, flavor, and the distiller. It's a lot like brewing, kind of up to your own personal tastes. But general rule of thumb from what I've found is that like you have that 10% you toss out at the beginning, 30% from the next 30% you set aside, good 30% in the center there for hearts, and then the other 30% you set off to the side to redistill later. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that's going to go into getting a very small volume of usable liquor.
Just to do your math there, because I punched it in, you started with a 5-gallon batch at 6%, breaking down the math with all the 30% throw off, the 30% reuse. You're going to wind up with 11 and a half ounces of finished product that you can use.
Yep. Now, granted, that's, you can still like, how would you say, what do they call? I can't remember what the term that they call it, but when you add water to it, because you don't want to just drink that straight stuff, I can't recall the term, but
white dog.
Yeah.
You add water to the white dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To bring out the flavors and whatnot, but because that's going to be 100 and between 120 and 160 proof, depending on how efficient your still is. But so you dilute it down, and then that's what you would throw into, throw on oak chips or something. So still, I mean, you said what, 11 and a half ounces is what you were looking at. So you're looking at 22 ounces, so a bomber maybe, after rediluting it. So there's not a whole lot that you get out of distilling down a batch.
Granted, you're not drinking it a pint at a time.
Right.
Shouldn't maybe,
but you also don't get to drink that beer, and that's kind of where I landed on. Geez, I'd feel bad kind of distilling all this beer that I'm making, but
yeah. Well, so no, I never would intend it to make a beer and then distill it with that intent, though, Drew. My intent here was, I've got 22 cases of beer that I've collected over the last 9 years of home brewing. That really, in all honesty, needs to get dumped out. So, is there something salvageable out of all of this beer? Because when Brian and I went through and tried a lot of it, and it's all fucking dumpers. So
yeah, no, that 100% that makes sense. I was saying, when I looked into doing it commercially, oh, but there goes my beer. It's like I don't know. So it's amazing how much it takes to make just a little bit of liquor, when you're talking those kinds of percentages.
Yeah, which is why, as Jason had said earlier, Jim Beam probably ferments, their mash to 18 to 20%, because then you're still looking at, getting a lot more out of it. I mean, you're looking at getting, close to 4 times, 3 to 4 times your usable amount. So, that's
they're cranking through those fermenters too. I mean, it's not like they're sitting in those things for weeks. It's
right.
Boom, good enough, and then it gets distilled pretty much. Once it hits that FG, that final gravity they're looking for, they're transferring it to the still and going.
Yep.
So
yeah, I don't know, Jason, if 22 cases is a lot of beer. So you might have enough there to get something. That'd be a couple long days though.
Yeah. Oh, that's my thing is that's the conversations that I've had around with homebrewers is what to do with leftover stuff. I've got a friend that used to work for a distributor that had access to a large volume of some old beer at one point, and they thought about doing it, but then the question came down to, what am I going to pick up from this? Am I going to make just nasty swill? Is it gonna have old hop residue that's going to come through, or any other off flavors, or am I going to get clean, pure white dog, whatever it's called, liquor that I can then age and use. And so that's where my curiosity into it comes, is if I ever get the opportunity, if we pass the law and I get the chance to do it, is it viable to use old beer to distill, or is it just hand sanitizer at that point?
Yeah, and I mean, off your initial distill, you're probably like, say you had 5 gallons of hot 75 IBU IPA, something super hoppy. You're probably going to get some of those flavors carrying through into the initial distillate. But the nice thing about distilling is that you can kind of toss that aside and you can run it through again and run it through again and keep stripping those flavors off until you have something very clear.
Very
So
clean.
yeah,
Interesting.
so you have, unlike a beer where if you have something that you just really don't like the flavor of, you can try messing with it a bunch, but oftentimes, like, if that flavor might not be salvageable. When it comes to distilling, if you're not liking the flavor when it first comes out, run it again. I mean, you're going to strip flavor out of it, but
Yeah.
you'll eventually get, something super clean.
Well, I think it's important to note there's different kinds of stills too. Like,
Yep.
so we've kind of, I think to this point, we've been talking about pot stills, which are more designed for making like whiskeys and things where you're kind of trying to retain a lot of that initial flavor. Like, whiskey is essentially distilled beer, so you're trying to retain some of those, kind of
Malt
caramely
character.
notes and things that came
Mhm.
from the original beer, versus like a reflux still, which is what you're going to use to make like vodka or maybe like like a moonshine or something, where it's like you're trying to you're stripping out a lot of that in the effort to get to a higher kind of cleaner alcohol. So
What's the difference in the way that those work? Like, say, like a pot still versus a reflux.
I mean, it has a lot to do with the column on it. So, and people can correct me in chat if I'm wrong here. But the way I understand it is like, um, there's like when you're distilling, there's kind of a cycle, right? So like your alcohol vapors coming up, and then you've got usually like cold water or something that's kind of cooling it back down, so that the alcohol vapor will condensate and so it can be collected, kind of thing. Um, so it has a lot to do with like the shape of it. So with a pot still, there's less of that circulation going on. So you're ultimately getting like a lower percentage alcohol, and it's retaining more of those sort of like
Hmm.
aromatic compounds and stuff. Versus by the time it comes out of a reflux still, it's kind of gone through that process so many times. You're getting like a pretty clean, high octane product on the other end. So like, when they're making vodka, they're using more like a reflux still. When they're making whiskey, they're using more like a pot still kind of setup.
Yep. I guess the easy way to note the difference, if you look at a still, or you see ones that have that giant column coming right up out of the center, that's your reflux column. So that would
Yeah.
be your reflux still, whereas the pot still might just have a small column off the top or something off to the side, just somewhere for those vapors to escape.
If you've ever seen those like old pictures of stills where they got like this kind of like wizardry sort of like cone thingy coming off the side, like that's like a pot still, because
Hmm.
it's just there's not a lot of time for that to really process and heat up and re-condensate or whatever.
Yep.
Wizardry.
Yeah, like an alchemist or something.
I mean, isn't all of brewing or distilling, isn't it just alchemy at some level?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Turning grain into alcohol is basically like turning, what is it, like lead into gold or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally cool.
So what kind of like Drew, you said making, whiskey or whatever is basically like distilling beer, right? But do you use like just, like malted barley in that, or like what what kind of determines like maybe like what flavors you get? Like why is one whiskey tasting different than a different whiskey if we're just sort of everybody's making big beers and distilling them?
Yeah, so I mean, it has a ton to do with your grain makeup going into the initial fermentation. I think Jordan kind of talked about that a little bit. In fact, I can't remember the exact percentages, but there's very strict guidelines around like bourbon about how much rye you're supposed to use and how much barley and corn.
Only thing I remember on bourbon is that it has to be a majority corn, so it has to be 51% corn, I believe.
Yeah.
I can be corrected on that, but
So
I thought
that's a
what it was.
factor. Another thing is like sour mash, right? Where you're like, so when you make whiskey, well, especially like bourbon type whiskey, like they'll ferment it with, or they ferment it with the grain and stuff in there. Like it's not, like as a brewer, we're going through this process where we have like a false bottom, or we're using a brew in a bag. We're ultimately separating the grains from the wort before we ferment. That's not necessarily true with how they make a lot of the whiskeys. And so what ends up happening after a while is you start getting that wild yeast in there, and it kind of gets that sour funkiness to it. And that's kind of where your sour mash whiskey comes from, and how that became like a thing.
I would point out, I guess, at this point where that's from reusing your mash grains primarily, at least from what I've read. So since you're fermenting on top of your starches, more or less, and then draining off, you can effectively just re-add water, add some sugar to get the yeast going again, and it will start chewing away at the same stuff before. But at that point in time, that's where you kind of, the sour mash might start coming in there. Things might souring up a little bit, but you can get a few runs out of your starches.
Another thing I didn't realize, but maybe everybody knew this, is like, so brandy is essentially distilled wine.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really put that together until I started doing some research on it. It kind of blew my mind. I'm like, oh, so whiskey's basically distilled beer and brandy's basically distilled wine. Wow.
Yep.
Or like because it can be like apple, like wine too, right? Like a distilled cider and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like apple brandy. Wonder, is there a term for distilled mead? I wonder.
I don't know.
No, the
It would
answer
be
is
so expensive.
it probably still fall in the brandy category is what I would think.
Yeah, you're probably right. Honey brandy.
That's what I'm reading right now. It falls into brandy.
Yeah.
Man, that'd be expensive. I want to taste.
Have you had Stinger at Homebrew Fest, Brian?
Oh yeah. Okay, you're right. Yeah, I guess that is what that is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Not that it's made in Michigan or anything like that at all, and whatever. I'm sure it's a purchased, whatever.
So is ice distilling illegal too? Then
I don't think so.
I don't think it's not technically called distilling. It's fortification. It's
right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Because you're not using heat.
Well, I mean, commercially, you need the right kind of license to go over a certain percentage, right? Because you're getting into like the sort of heavy wines for like almost, but yeah, my cat's here.
Hey, kitty.
Hey, Patty. Ah,
anyway.
Yeah, I kind of want to taste like whiskeys or whatever made out of different like beer styles now, like an Oktoberfest. Like whiskey or something like a bunch of Northern malt.
There are like specific adjuncts that people fall into. So obviously, that there's rye whiskey, where a majority of those grains that are used in there are rye. but like
real quick.
there are like whiskeys out there that use things like wheat, and I didn't realize this before, but I believe Pappy is used using wheat, and each different type of grain adjunct that you use imparts a different profile to the finished product. So from what I read, wheat makes things pretty smooth and really mellow, whereas rye, it carries through that spicy flavor. From what I gather, like your standard whiskeys, like a Jack or a pretty standard bourbon, they all primarily use two row. That's the base malt that gets thrown in as its as the grain starch part of it. So yeah, I would find it very interesting to try, throw in some melanoidin malt in there and see what happens.
Do they have like really dark like whiskeys and bourbons, like from like a stout or something like that? Like,
you're gonna lose a ton of color.
Are you?
Yeah.
Bye, Drew.
About that.
Bye, Drew.
Patty Alt F4'd him.
Yeah.
Kick me out of the office.
Or chewed through one of his cords. I hope not. Oh Lord.
So yeah, I haven't heard about different grains imparting different
technical difficulties.
Crazy colors or anything like that. It seems to be just the variety, not like the. I guess not. Let me back up. I haven't heard about the effects of malting on grains. I've just heard about distilling with the various types of grains, and I wonder if, for a whiskey producer, to use a malted grain, I think would be cost prohibitive, right? Because you're decreasing the available sugars in that grain when you malt it. So they're using just like a base malt style, so roast it and to go up and get that, or try to get those color roasty characteristics. I think that's what they're doing with the barrel and other treatments.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what about going like way off alternate fermentables like Mountain Dew, like
Dew Shine.
I mean, yeah, like not even Dew Wine, but Dew Shine. Yeah,
Dew Shine.
There you go. That. I mean, most of those other compounds that are in Mountain Dew probably won't carry over through the distilling, but maybe it's. Once it's legal here in Michigan, somebody make us like 20 gallons of douche.
It just goes back to you come up with some interesting ideas, and then Brian finds a way to twist them and convert them.
Just pushing the theoretical boundaries.
Okay, I'm not completely crazy. I was like, didn't they make that? But it was like non-alcoholic. Mountain Dew Shine.
So there is an alcoholic version of Mountain Dew coming out this fall.
Oh yeah, you're right. I do remember reading that.
They're kind of going down the seltzer route, though. I think it's going to be like a malt beverage, a Mountain Dew flavored seltzer product, 5% ABV. I'll find them.
Yeah, there's also, this is like, I don't know, when I Googled it, it came up on Walmart. But it's basically Mountain Dew made with cane sugar, but it's non-alcoholic.
So the alcoholic Mountain Dew line got pushed back to 2022. Damn.
Come on.
Rats.
They're coming out with 3 flavors: Mountain Dew flavor, black cherry flavor, and watermelon flavor. Which I don't know if anybody's had watermelon Mountain Dew. It's not good. Let me see if I can.
You are a watermelon aficionado.
I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be that much different than just like making up a vodka and Mountain Dew or something,
Yeah.
Does original Mountain Dew taste like citrusy lemon to you guys? I've never thought of Mountain Dew as citrusy lemon, but
The base flavor of Mountain Dew is orange.
Interesting. I never would have thought that, since it looks like, engine coolant.
that's why
Yeah, no.
Ecto Cooler was so popular. High C Ecto Cooler. Oh,
Yeah.
I
best
remember
beverage that
those.
ever existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like the Ghostbusters came out. Yeah.
Tim mixes his with milk.
There we've got it. The Mountain Dew line.
Okay, I did see that the other day too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero sugar Mountain Dew. Well, I guess they have Diet Mountain Dew, but still.
They've actually already got Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. So Pepsi brought out the Zero Sugar line to battle Coke Zero.
So are those cocktails, or are they like a fermented beverage? Do you know?
It's a fermented beverage. Yeah,
Okay.
It's,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Huh.
That's what I said. It's seltzer. It's malt liquor.
That might be worth trying then.
Or a malt beverage. Yeah, that's funny. That a lot of people are confused. I don't know why we got on a Mountain Dew kick, but
Because
Dew's,
Brian and his weird ideas.
yeah, Mountain Dew's base flavor is citrus. It's citrus. It's primarily orange. They use orange concentrate. So, and I think if you look back in the history, I think at one point it was lemon, but I think it got cheaper to do orange. So now it's citrus.
It's flavors.
It's just orange pop, color green.
Yeah. So if I were to grab some Fanta, it would taste just like Mountain Dew.
Not in your head. It's one of the other reasons why here we go down stupid facts of Mountain Dew. Shake up a can and open it. It doesn't foam crazy like cola. And
Really?
Because of the citrus oils. Yeah, it's the head retention on Mountain Dew is non-existent.
There's no foam positive proteins in a Mountain Dew.
There you go, folks. Try it over your keyboards.
There you go. All right. We
Yeah.
are not responsible if
We're not responsible for anything we're talking about tonight.
No.
I'm pretty sure.
maybe we need to flash a disclaimer up at the end
Yeah.
of our intro. Just
If
saying,
you
like,
listen
we're
to
not
anything we're saying tonight and take it seriously, then you're dumb.
unless the Brain Stevens, flag is up, then that's real talk.
Then it's okay. Yeah.
All right. So what was the topic again?
Distilling beer.
Right.
So let's talk about shit that we know about.
Is that Larry Bell?
Bromated vegetable oil in Mountain Dew.
That is
Okay.
Larry
All
Bell. Look at
Yeah.
Oh,
that.
there you go.
Hey, Larry. Thanks
So
for
let's talk
stopping
about
by.
The one thing I do know about is the crushing sensation of having all of your wonderful, amazing homebrew turned into hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Who was it here? Was it somebody we know sent over like their Jason? You were saying you convinced somebody to send over like their last bottle of mead
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I convinced people to enter. I was really excited. That's my job in the club, is to convince people to enter homebrew clubs and get good feedback. And
You do a great job.
yeah, there's a up on my wall now. But I mean that's what I do, and I did. I convinced some people to enter. Like the last of their 7-year-old amazing award-winning mead, and send it to nationals. It's going to do well, and you're going to get great feedback in a medal. And it got dumped and turned into hand sanitizer. And
So this mead was I think it was 2014 Wine Magazine like mead of the year, like for whatever competition they had going on. Like it was like the last bottles.
Oh.
And he was just kind of heartbroken. I mean, what can you do? At least it hopefully went to a good cause, but
Yeah.
yeah,
that's why I said I think it just made heroes out of all of us homebrewers. We contributed to the cause. In the day of age, when hand sanitizer was hard to come by, and the hospital staff need it. I actually believe that the homebrew, and I could be totally pulling this out of my ass, but the homebrew was sent to a distillery, turned into hand sanitizer, and donated to frontline healthcare workers. So that's the story I read, or at least that's how I interpreted the story when I was drinking, crying one night.
I was often wondering about that.
Let's be optimistic that like maybe a couple of the bottles got drank by the guys who were distilling it all. Because then I'd feel like a little better about that.
If I would have got like a random email from some distiller out there that was like, hey, cracked one of these open before we dumped it in, I would have my heart would have been so warm.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
That's awesome.
If Larry, if you're still watching, I just poured a Hams into a Bell's glass. I'm sorry.
From the land of sky blue waters.
Yeah.
I wonder. I wish I could have tried whatever like the end product would have been, like
the distillate.
Yeah, just
probably
just
not very good,
dude. I think you've had Malort. That's probably what Malort is.
You just get. I mean, I don't know. You think of all those different categories of beer. I feel like there'd be such a clash in flavors. Maybe worse than Malort, even.
Thank you, Larry. It was reflex. So anyway,
you have been forgiven.
Oh man, so this is obviously what none of us have really done this. This was just something that we're interested in. I would love to, if it was legal, I would love to get a home distill kit. I know, Jordan, it's going to get me 22 ounces of liquor out of a 5-gallon batch. I just think the science behind it's neat, and I'd like to try it.
No, agree 100%. I'd still do it. Once it's if it's legal here, I will be pressing that buy button.
Yeah,
that day.
I have dreams of getting like these little 1 gallon oak. Desktop barrels and like aging out, in my office. And
do they make them in 1 gallon?
Yeah, I've seen them. Novelty shit, I'm sure, but I don't know.
Let's talk about aging for a sec. So,
Sure.
Say you are doing it on like a really small scale. Like, obviously, White Lightning kind of sucks, right? Like nobody really wants to drink just like distilled ethanol, like straight up. So
right,
we throw it in like charred barrels or do whatever else we do with it.
You dilute it first.
Okay. Fair.
Yep.
Nobody wants to drink like Everclear, I guess, right? Basically, or
essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it goes further, right?
Yeah.
When
you cut it with water.
But Wood's given these liquors all their magical flavors. Like vanillas and chocolates and
there's Larry. That's a good point, Larry. It evaporates fast in small barrels. That's a very, very good point. I did not think.
I mean, we're homebrewers, right? We're not thinking of the.
My wife would kill me if I had a bunch of 55-gallon like wood barrels here in my basement. I don't think that's feasible.
I tried to buy it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say maybe you guys have read it that like how do like wood alternatives work? So say you char up some like staves and you drop them in like a carboy full of
or a small glass bottle. So you're going to avoid evaporation. You're going to impart the wood flavor. So you're talking about like using those spirals, right? Or I just don't know if you get the surface area and the volume, right, to impart the wood flavors.
Well, you should have more surface area depending on like if you had, a wide mouth, a gallon pickle jar works well. So there we go. Getting some knowledge laid down by Larry Bell. So yeah, I mean, if you have like say a gallon glass, pickle jar and you have, 3 or 4 6, however many fit in there without having overflow of those charred oak spirals in there, you should technically have more surface area in contact with the liquor. So your aging time, if I'm thinking about this correctly, and I could just be completely wrong because I'm just off the top of my head right now, it should go down. So you shouldn't have to keep it in there for a year.
Generally, yeah, the larger the surface area overall. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's why like 5-gallon, barrels or whatever beer will like age faster in those. It just the ratio is a lot smaller. So Larry's saying 3 to 6 months. Larry, have you used like alternative wood in?
That's a good question.
In smaller batches or anything like that?
Like a cherry wood or toasted pecan or something like that. I don't know if that's what you're getting at, Brian, but that's something that I've been thinking of. Like, have they? Because usually it's American white oak.
Mm-hmm.
Those squirrels we talked about a little bit the other day. Those are kind of interesting.
Let's talk about squirrels for a sec. Yeah, that's super cool.
I can't. I looked into them for beer too as a aging option. But basically, yeah, the idea is it has these removable wooden slats, so you could supplement different kinds of wood. Of course, they're more kind of geared, towards the homebrew size. But I don't know. I can't vouch for them, but they seem interesting, kind of pricey. But the idea of a reusable barrel is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I really for a. I guess a commercial scale. Yeah. I thought those were the term squirrel I love. But just having those slats that you can kind of exchange out, different things was really neat. At a home, theoretical home distilling scale, I don't really see it being, unless you got a ton of money to throw, what would they, like $780?
Yeah, they're expensive
at a 10-gallon or so fermenter. Or
they're fairly small too, though, I guess is what I was getting at. Like,
Yeah. I thought they were only 10 gallons, 10 or 15 gallons.
Yeah.
Then here's the thing, kind of though. What is the difference between, replacing a bunch of slats of, wood inside this, fermenter versus just, taking spirals or honeycombs and dropping them right inside like a container, like a pickle jar, or something, right? Like, aside from having to account for the extra surface area that the other, 2 dimensions of the wood, adds, versus just being exposed, right on one side, it should kind of accomplish the same thing, right? You might even have to use less wood overall because you're using, all of it.
Yeah. I mean, that was my thought. And if I were to think of it, I didn't even think of the honeycombs, but doing a honeycomb, insert or the spirals or something like that, I feel inside of a glass jar would probably be ideal for, the home brewer scale, if you will. And as we saw from Larry Bell, he said 3 to 6 months does pretty good. So, you don't have to wait years or anything like that. And no evaporation if you're in glass. So more product.
Yeah, and that's kind of a good point too, is you kind of got to be careful what I talked about it a little bit earlier, but you got to be careful what sort of containers and stuff you would be using when you're talking about spirits. So
yeah, because you don't want to use.
I was just going to look if the squirrels are even rated to hold spirits. You know what I mean? Like, I
thought that's what they were made for. To be honest, when we were talking about it, we were drinking, like usual. So
as we are,
yeah.
I mean, because they would work for like beer aging too, which I think is originally when I kind of looked at them, but I don't know.
I guess it would also be. Oh, go ahead.
Like wood, stainless, and glass, pretty much are fair game, and copper, certain types of copper is the short answer. But do you Do your research.
Did we talk about this earlier? What's the benefit of a copper, like still or something versus like another metal? Or a copper pot. The copper has some redeeming value with distilling, right? There's like a special property or something that it brings to the table. I feel like I've read this somewhere, but
As I
Yeah.
understand it,
I'm
it
not the
kind of
distilling guy here.
purifies it a little bit, right? I think it strips out some of the nasties.
It's highly reactive to other charged compounds, so
Yeah.
it should attract things that are outside within the vapor that are outside of the alcohol. So it creates a cleaner product, which is why when we were talking about reflux distilling, in that column that they have up above, your pot or whatever. A lot of times distillers, if they're really trying to make a super clean product, will pack that full of like a copper, like wool, kind of like a steel wool, but made out of copper. So what happens is that as that vapor is going up, cooling into that column, cooling off, and then refluxing back down, condensing and falling back down through the copper, that distillate is being cleaned from the copper wool as it goes back down in the solution and then re-evaporates back up. And then, after it goes through that a few times, the cleaner vapor will then make it up through and escape out to your condenser and then out into your collection pot.
That's cool.
There's a lot of things about like post filtration too, like a lot of they use like radioactive carbon. Like there was that Mythbusters episode, right, where they are putting like bottom shelf vodka through like Brita filters and stuff like that over and over again.
Yep.
I mean that's legit. That does actually work, and that's something that's gets talked about a lot in the home distilling community.
Can you buy just like kind of junk whiskey and run it through, a Brita filter a couple times and come out with a better product?
I mean that's what they did in the show.
Yeah.
It
Oh, is
won't
that
hurt
what
it.
you said? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so in the show, I think if I remember right, they had like the bottom shelf vodka, and then they had like a professional taster come in. And
I missed that.
If I remember right, he could still tell the difference, but he also kind of ranked them based on how many times they had been, filtered through, and the bottom shelf vodka that had been filtered a bunch of times was like not that much worse than like the top shelf stuff. Is kind of the gist.
Yeah, it's cool.
It made an improvement. It just
right.
Well, I mean, I think we've wasted an hour talking on something that none of us can legally do. We got to hang out with Larry for a while. Thanks, Larry, if you're still watching.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the Bell's Homebrew competition coming up. The award ceremony's on Sunday. We'll all be there. Well, Drew, you coming? You should come.
I'm going to do my best.
Yeah,
to be there.
Yeah, I think I'll be there. I was way off. I guess I thought it was still going to be All Stouts Day this year, but I'm out of the loop on that a little bit. But
they've really gone out this year.
I'll make a plan.
It's going to be in the beer garden. We're going to be there for Keepers of Craft. We'll have the some of our info there and our bar set up, even though we can't serve beer on it yet. Maybe if Larry's on, we can talk about that for next year. But we'll have some of the club there supporting the local homebrew community, and hopefully Keeper won it again. That'll be 3 times in a row. So that'll be awesome.
Keep it on the family.
Yeah. No, it's a great time either way.
Hell yeah. And
one of my favorite times of year, to be honest. Absolutely.
Come win a prize. So far, I think Drew is like the only one I know personally that's actually won a raffle prize.
Yeah.
So we're bound to have some keepers with us here.
I did inadvertently. Well, I guess I didn't win it, but somebody. That's where I got my wort chiller. Was from the Bell's Homebrew kickoff. One of the guys that was brewing with me at the time won it, and I was a roommate with him, and he kind of stopped brewing before we moved out. So
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
One year I won some smoked malt at it, and I hate smoked malt, but
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking somebody got a bunch of malt that like they couldn't use or whatever. That all right.
no,
That's
the Pilot House guy was there, and he swapped it out for good malt because I had just been at his table or something talking about. Actually, that might not have been Homebrew Fest. That might have been the AHA get together. I can't remember, but I was at the table talking with the Pilot House malt guy, and I tasted his smoked malt, and I like spit it out. I'm like, God, I hate smoked malt. Like I didn't realize it was smoked, and he laughed at me. And then 20 minutes later, I won a big old bag of smoked malt, and I came back to his table, and he's just like, "Here, you can take."
Yeah.
Regular. Malt.
I won like a 50-pound bag of malt and some swag and got like a nice hat out of it. I got some great stuff the year I won. So
I think I've been one number away 2 years in a row from winning.
So we've got Friday, or I'm sorry, Sunday. We've got the Bell's Homebrew Competition award ceremony. Come out and check that out.
Yes, please do.
Next week, I have to nail this down yet. So we are going to be talking with the organizer of the Michigan State Fair Homebrew Competition, Blair. He said we streamed the homebrew homebrew award ceremony last week. Congrats to all the winners there. I know Brian took a whole handful of fucking medals home, or ribbons. But we'll have Blair on to talk about the Michigan State Fair Homebrew Competition, hopefully next Monday. And then for a change of pace, Brian and Jordan and I actually got together and kind of planned out the shows for the whole rest of the year. So we actually do have
we got a game plan.
Yeah, we have 14 shows lined up. There's a lot of guest shows in there that we've got to nail down specific dates, so I don't have an order yet. But we'll definitely have some more homebrew clubs on. We're going to have a couple of cider makers hopefully joining us. We're going to do a show around mead, hopefully with the organizers of the Mead Cup. What else? I don't have the list in front of me. We've got a homebrew review show coming up that we're going to try to focus on session beers this time. So that's a good thing to throw out. If you're watching or if you hear this, we're going to target a show either in later October or early November. And we're going to be drinking and talking about session beers and giving a review on session beers and talking about recipe variations for session beers. So if you're interested in getting us your beer, reach out to us either on our Facebook page or individually, or email michigan.brews.show@gmail.com. Put that in the thing.
We also have a special Thanksgiving show lined up.
We do. Holiday Seltzer 3.0.
Shit, I forgot about that. That's
So we're going to drink some holiday seltzers.
I got corn sugar. I got time to make one.
Yeah,
right?
so
we can have up to 10 people on our stream at a time now if we want,
seltzer party,
seltzer family episode or something.
Let's get Larry on. Have him come drink seltzers with us.
So
what does holiday seltzer mean? Like cranberry seltzers or like?
No, it just means it's the holidays and we're going to drink seltzer. So
we're gonna get shitty. That's
it was like turkey flavored seltzer. Where are we going with this?
I laugh my ass off.
Jones Soda had something like that. Yeah.
I would laugh my ass off because I do believe he said that Bell's will never make a seltzer.
That's I believe so.
So this isn't. This is just the background on this. Is we've had a show where we talk about seltzers and we wind up because they go down so easy. We wind up just slamming seltzers and talking about seltzers, and those tend to be kind of our more our silly shows, our drunk shows. So this time, that's why it's a holiday seltzer show. Drew, is we're going into it eyes wide open this time, understanding. We're just gonna have a good time. And we're gonna pound a bunch of seltzers.
You want to come back and hang out with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Dusty Brewing.
Yeah, give me the date. I'll let you know.
All right.
But that sounds like fun.
We'll have that. We did the recipe creation show a few weeks ago with Sam and Travis Ross, who did our amazing intro. So we're gonna get together in the next few weeks, hopefully, and brew that beer with them, and then we plan on having them back on the air with us to try that beer.
Sea Gum IPA.
Yes. coconut shrimp IPA.
Michigan coconut shrimp IPA.
Yeah, and so
Where do you get
no.
Michigan coconuts from?
It's a Michigan IPA, but it's also coconut and it's also
I was-
shrimped. So it's
I know, I was joking. Bad
So-
dad joke. I'm off my game.
We do this to have fun, and yeah, and some cool things are coming, right? So we've got the website up, or we're working on the website. I'm sorry, we're a podcast now. We're working on the
Thanks,
website.
Tim.
And
where
that
else would
is where
Michigan
you would get
coconuts come from?
coconuts.
Got a point.
We might even be setting up a Shopify so you guys can start ordering some Michigan brew swag.
We
that being said, maybe after the show, I think I have a line on a couple hats. I just want to get some feedback from you guys.
Sure.
Excellent.
We've said before, and we're still holding to this, that we're not looking to, take home any money from the show or anything like that. But that's being said, people have reached out to us and been like, let me get a Michigan brew shirt or something like that. Like we recently sent a couple shirts down to our friends Mike and I, who just moved to Japan. So at some point soon, we'll probably have some pictures of Michigan brews being rocked around
Michigan
Tokyo.
brews is international.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I mean, if we can sell merch for no profit and pay for our StreamYard fees or something like that, then that'd be sweet. And then use the rest of that, if there's any extra money or whatever for giveaways.
Yeah, I was just gonna say giveaways like hats, shirts, coasters, mugs, something like that. I don't know, whatever we have on our merch page. Like,
I want to know when the OnlyFans page is going live. That's all I care about.
We'll post about that separately.
Yeah,
but basically, hang with us. We've got a lot of good shows coming up this year. We're gonna meet, like you said, meet some new cool people. We've got some good guests lined up. And then we're going to keep doing what we did, or what we started this for, right? Was just to hang out and drink with our friends. So, yeah.
I think that's it.
That's it. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
Thanks for hanging out
back
with us
next
tonight.
week.
And yeah.